never need them again. I was like, I'm not sure that keyboards are going to disappear from the face of the earth. But it is important that you won't need one to do a job, that you won't need a keyboard to contribute. You won't need a keyboard to get a pass to go to the library. And today, all of that's required. So it's kind of up to us to change that. Hospitality is a great place because people have fun usually in those situations, or they're doing something that they need. So they're, again, have another level of interest. So I have a bit of an agenda when I talk to you guys around accessibility, around thinking differently about the way you build tech. I have about 100 skills in the store today. All of my code's on GitHub. Many of my skills have been copied and exactly pasted into Alexa. Not by me, by people who found them. Like, just be a little tiny bit original. I don't mind me taking it. Change up like the name or a comment or something. But I run Lady Coders. We're a group in Seattle, which is where I'm from. And basically it started off as like this is terrible, there's not enough women, to, oh my gosh, there's some pretty amazing women. And so now it's much more aspirational and inspirational than it was the original, like, now it's like, oh my gosh, this is pretty cool. So it's really giving more Lady Coders a voice. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. Now I started off at Microsoft I worked at Amazon for 4 years, which is like 20 years in Amazon time. It's like, I retired basically from there. And it was good time. When I was there, I thought I was blissfully happy. I now realize after reading that maybe that wasn't bliss, but it was awesome. I had a great time. Being on Alexa during this heyday, I'll tell you a fun fact. I went to serverless and taught the very first Alexa talk. It was like 2014. At that conference, 7 people that were in that session became Alexa champions. I was like, maybe not exactly me, but I was there. They heard it first. But I did feel like, I was like, it's rare to be part of this time, right? This time when this technology is kind of taking off. So this video was launched the day I started at Microsoft, and I think you'll understand why I joined by the end of it. So I just want to take 50 seconds and let you see it. Really quick. So if you want to eat your chips, now's the time. Just a little suspense.
Today, right now, you have more power at your fingertips than entire generations that came before you. Think about that.
Drat. Cortana? She's later in the talk. Keep going.
That's what technology really is. It's possibility, it's adaptability, it's capability. But in the end, it's only a tool. What's a hammer without a person who swings it? It's not about what technology can do, it's about what you can do with it. You're the voice, and it's the microphone. When you're the artist, it's the paintbrush. We are living in the future we always dreamed of. We have mixed reality that changes how we see the world, and AI empowering us to change the world we see. You have more power at your fingertips than entire generations that came before you. So here's the question. What will you do with it?
Every time I'm like, oh my gosh, let's go. And then YouTube comes up and I'm like, oh my gosh, wait, get out of there. Woo, you never know what's going to show up. Now, so that was the first video, right? It came out the day I started. I'm like, oh, the angels are singing. I am in the right place. You know, AI is a tool. NLU, natural language, Alexa, was like first out of the gate to fail fast. And I don't know if you guys remember those first 2 years. It was bad. I sat in the NLU team, the team that basically, I don't know if you recently saw an article that said Alexa was listening to your utterances. And like it was some kind of, somebody tried to say that was like a bad thing. I'm like, you said yes, right? You signed it. I have the proof. Like when we first got those devices, we gladly gave away our rights. And it was not fine print. It was like 4 sentences. You will give your data to make a better piece of software. And you're the cool kids, so you gladly give it over and over again. And if you ever want it back, you can just say no. It was like very, very simple language. So it was shocking. 5 years later, they were like, oh, Amazon used our utterances to make the product better. Like, actually, yes, of course they did. But in addition to that, Amazon set the stage for a bunch of other companies, smaller entrepreneurial companies, huge companies like Google, even Apple, to make another play at something that they've not done a great job at. Notice I didn't mention Microsoft. We'll get to that. But all of the CEOs of the companies that I've worked for, all of them had a common thread. Jeff Bezos called it a deep keel, and he's, voting guy. But basically, having some kind of deep foundation in something. What is that? And that deep foundation will determine the direction of your vote, or in our case, of the company or our industry. So I want to share with you a quote that I saw repeated at IBM, at Red Hat, at Amazon, and also at Microsoft. So what is success? To laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate the beauty, to find the best in others, to leave the world a bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition. To know that just one life has breathed easier because you have lived, this is to have succeeded. Right, so Jeff Bezos, I remember tweeting out, like, this is on my fridge, I read this to my kids every day. It was really interesting to me as a technologist because that made me feel a little bit more comfort. But then I did some research and found out, like, Ralph Waldo Emerson is the guy kind of giving credit for this quote. But it turned out a woman wrote it, which I thought was awesome. So I could give her some play too, Bessie Stanley. But both of them made this possible. And the fact that this, written way back in the 40s, 20s, I can't remember, a long time ago, before we had voice, before we had AI, before we had responsible and ethical AI considerations, this is something that our technology leaders are thinking about. And I think we all should, right, where we place this foundation. So in that video, you saw we have more power than ever. Why is that? Because we have Alexa. So if you know Alexa, you probably know its close sister, Lex, which is a AWS at your leisure. And if you don't, you should make a look at that. There's also other services. Microsoft has a collection of services, which I'll talk to you about. But there are now models, AI models, really difficult things to build, available in a single web service call. If you're a developer, you can do it in one line, maybe 3 of code. So I want to show you today what those capabilities look like and share with you some stories, some happy stories and some sad ones, about how we've leveraged this technology in the future. But we've got this, incredible technology. We've got this incredible power. So I always like to remind us, and maybe you guys can help me with this one. There's a quote that goes, "With great power comes." Right? Okay, you are my friend. We are kindred. Yes, with great power comes great responsibility. No truer in Spider-Man's Uncle Ben's day than today, when we have the ability to leverage AI to do things, and we don't actually need to know how AI works to do it. Extremely dangerous. There's many ways to identify it. Many different developers have attempted to use it and ended up building, well, we'll just say, not super awesome technology solutions. I'll give you an example. There was 2 relatively inexperienced developers. They're like, oh my gosh, we're going to help the judicial system. Anyone heard this one? It's not awesome. They're going to help the judicial system, and they're going to go back and pull all, which luckily, judicial decisions are public record. So they went and pulled all the data in public record and said, we're going to create AI that'll automatically suggest the top 5 sentences to a judge so that they don't really have to think too much about it. It's based on their decisions anyway. Here's the challenge with that. Anyone know the challenge with that? Yeah, humans are horrible. Humans are horribly flawed in the sense that they have personal biases. They are unconsciously biased, which is worse because they don't even know that they're biased. But that bias shows up exponentially when you use data to demonstrate it. So what ended up happening, of course, is that these judges tended, for whatever reason, to give people with lighter skin a lesser sentence, people with darker skin a more egregious sentence for the same crimes. And the AI kept getting smarter, which what that meant is that it's called reinforcement learning. Every decision that it made reinforced these biases, which is why responsible and ethical AI becomes super important. Because somebody would have caught that if they sat in a huge company like Microsoft, where we have boards that do these reviews. But as two people sitting in a garage and now selling it, right, to some company who's then going to embed it and sell it to another company, no one thought to even look at it until it was a little bit too late. A lot of money changed hands and a lot of sad faces when that disintegrated. So it's interesting. It's an interesting time. So I talked a lot about AI. NLU, or natural language, Alexa, is AI. Hopefully you know that. We always talk about, sometimes you might hear voice will be everywhere. I currently live in a world where voice is everywhere. Oftentimes, I come to events, maybe not like this, but like a voice summit or a voice first, like a Lex conference. We'd like throw down and be like, who has more devices on Alexa? You know, you can see. And I have like 133, so I almost always win. I did not win at your conference, but I almost always win. And in my world, voice is everywhere. But granted, I have my dad and I have my son, and so we have voice enable everything. We have a dot in our car and our cup holder, and we have one in his school, and it's everywhere to enable that. But we do see today voice enabled dry cleaning. I was like, oh, that's already a thing. Like, it's a thing. All you have to do is scale it out. So, what can you think about doing? I should tell you a little bit about my Alexa experience. So I mentioned I have about 100 skills on the platform. 40 of them are relatively popular. 5 of them are extremely popular. I get paid by Amazon to keep those skills running, even though I work for Microsoft, which I just think is like awesome. And these skills are mindfulness. So I built the only skill today that is allowed to have a single word invocation, mindfulness, because I wrote it for the rules. And then they made the rules and they're like, well, I guess you could keep it. And over my 40 skills, I have over 1 million users of these skills. So lots and lots of traffic. So the moral of that story is that over the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to share with you the lessons I learned in building for these users. I'm actually right now, I've been approached by certain organizations, I'll call them granola bar companies, to say we'd like to monetize your skill. Right? That would make sense. I have a lot of users, they want to monetize it. But if you think about me and mindfulness, I don't really feel good about charging people for mindfulness. Or even at the end being like, and don't forget to buy this granola bar, or here's a coupon, like, ew. So I said no, and I'm still battling with that. But those are, again, that was an ethical decision that I made to not monetize a skill like that. Those are decisions that our devs have to make, our Lex devs have to make all the time. So just to walk through kind of where we are in the industry, it is not too late for any of you, and if you have like an 11-year-old child, they could start their own voice company right now and do quite well. Most 6th graders kind of don't like school, so it might be a good use of their time. But voice is pretty powerful, right? This is just a couple of years from now, we are fast approaching. We will beat this number. This was the number that I use this slide because I think it's cool. It represents what we thought this business would look like 3 years ago. We are, like I said, we will surpass 1.83 billion before that. And that's mostly because of, and these are users, but that's mostly because of device proliferation. Alexa everywhere. So Amazon, as a company, decided that they wanted to make sure that Alexa was in every device. So I'll give you an example. I went to work for NASA, one of my favorite companies. I was just there as an Alexa person. And they wanted to create a rover. You know it? The Mars rover? Yeah. No, not that one. A little one that you take into schools and kids can ask it questions. So imagine, if you will, you are a, 2nd grader, and you walk up to this rover and you have to say, Alexa, ask Rogie to, you see how it kind of maybe kills the moment for a 4th grader where they're like, ooh, what? Why do I have to say Alexa? Today there's over 80,000 schools published in this book. we were thinking. But these are really great examples of companies that chose to say yes. It's also, this is public information, so this is also great if you are trying to provide evidence to your leadership that you should go after Alexa. These are great brands that went after it when there was no sign of hope, when we didn't even know if it would work. And now they've got pretty decent skills, all of which have very good followings. Now, some of the things that are in common with these skills is that they do not, none of them, I don't think today, maybe today they are, were transactional at the time. In other words, they were not trying to sell anyone anything. Guess what they were trying to do? Good old-fashioned marketing. Build relationships, right? Give people what they wanted. Give them content. GE, I don't know if we have that on here, maybe somewhere. GE created a skill that was all about, it was actually a voice, kind of like audio, creative storytelling. Had nothing to do with GE, but at the end they'd be like, brought to you by GE. And they were just doing that to build brand awareness and build relationships. And that's really where we've seen brands shine, is not in pushing down granola bars on a mindfulness skill, right? But in actually serving people the content that they want and then becoming a trusted brand for that content. And guess what? Then they'll buy whatever you sell. Turns out, that's the truth, data-wise. These are my skills, just to give you an idea if you ever want to go try one out. This is mindfulness, daily kindness, daily affirmation. This is probably my most popular skill, shockingly. I will also tell you the data behind that. 8 a.m. and 12 p.m. are my peak times. So that tells you when you get to work, like be nice to your friends because they're hurting so much that they have to ask Alexa for an affirmation. And then at noon, at lunchtime, they also need some love. So just be nice to your people. But really interesting stuff. I just recently, so these all have been out for a while. Daily Kindness is probably the youngest, and it just reached the threshold for payment, which I was like, holy mom, we are still like I haven't advertised that. Alexa hasn't advertised it. People are just discovering skills. We are at the very beginning of this. Now, lesson, failure on my part. Notice the name of my mindfulness skill. It's called 1 Minute Mindfulness. The invocation name, however, is mindfulness. My invocation name and the name of my skill were different. This you should never do. Now, Alexa tries to protect you from yourself today because when you build your skill for the first time, it automatically matches them. You can change it, but don't. And the reason why is because in the first 6 months, I had 500,000 requests come in for my skill that failed. They never got to my skill. And who knows what happened to those people? They probably never came back. But because they said open 1 minute mindfulness, it failed. They had no idea what that was because I didn't do that. So I'm just telling you that, and kind of as a note to self, you know, when you're thinking about names, that might be something to think about. Now, one thing I do want to share with you is kind of the bridge. So we talked earlier about voice first, and voice being the only thing. I'm a big believer that voice is awesome, and it can be the only thing, but it maybe shouldn't be the only thing. And the only reason behind that is that we could do so much when you let voice augment a screen. So for example, my son, he can say things and he can ask for his schedule and it will show up on our Fire TV. And he can see it because he can see. And that actually helps him. The more senses I can engage with that audience, the better. He can also have it show up on a browser, on his iPad. He can then touch the items in his display based on something he had launched with his voice. It alleviates the friction of having to go through a menu and find something, right? I just pop it to the page he needs and then he can interact with it directly. Huge benefit. Even if you're just reducing friction for a customer, let alone someone with special needs, just a customer, they're happier. So I just want to talk to you a little bit about how these two things come together. So Microsoft AI, and this is true of all AI, is a bunch of different things. 3, we'll say. One of them are called pre-built AI models. Now these are things you can use if you're a dev or you want to hire a dev. We've got at least 2 devs in house. These are models that you can use very, very simply as a simple web service call. Microsoft built a bunch of models. These are machine learning models, hard-earned, tough to build, complicated. Some of them took 20 years to build. And Microsoft said, all right, we're going to create these models, we're going to train it on Microsoft data, we're going to pay to get that data collected. I don't have my phone. But if you have one of those phones with facial recognition, Anyone done that training before, right? It's not super simple. It's not like hold it up and say cheese and you've got a new facial recognition model, right? You have to actually get like the full 360 and there's like a little radius of slat and you gotta like go back and hit them again. And anyway, it's not easy to do. And Microsoft did this for 1 million faces. So there's a certain number, a level of effort that's been done by companies that we wouldn't want to replicate. But these are AI models that are pre-built. They are limited in their function. For example, like Alexa, I have to use Alexa to get to it. Darn, I can't. That's a blocker. So what happens? Then I have to go all the way over here and build the whole thing from scratch. That's the option. Up till 3 years ago, this was the two choices. Use a model provided by a company, but it's probably pretty limited. And then, if it doesn't do what you want, go all the way and build a model from scratch, which means now you need machine learning experts and data scientists, and 20 years to get there. There's no compression algorithm for experience when it comes to model development. It takes a long time to build it, no matter what. You can't do it faster. So the good news, though, is that if you build it yourself, you own the model. You have to train it on your own data. There's value to that, right? So imagine you're Mars or NASA. You're building your Mars rover, and you're like, all right, fine, we're going to build our own NLP. But now you're building what Alexa has done over the last 15 years. You're trying to do it from scratch, which is what they did. They had an innovation center trying to build a natural language model from scratch. Didn't make sense. So Satya got on stage, which is the CEO, the new CEO of Microsoft. If you don't know him, you should read up on him. He's cool. There's a Bloomberg magazine right now, which has this like backlit angel halo thing going on. It's fascinating. But he did have a really good idea. He's also the very first CEO I've ever had that was an engineer. And it shows. So what he said is, wouldn't it be great if we could actually take Microsoft models, give them to devs, and combine them with your data? So, enter NASA. Why don't we let NASA use the baseline NLU for English that we spent 25 years building, and then let them add the data like their own wake word, their own invocation phrases, their own custom language for NASA terms. Let them augment an existing model instead of starting from scratch. This is where the magic happens, right? Like the angels saying, oh, right? So this gives us the ability now, as anyone, right? When you're looking at specific use cases, you want to look beyond. Like voice is awesome, but if you hit a roadblock, you should know all the capabilities that are available to you. So one option, again, part of our model is that once you've got this, a lot of people have concerns about, well, then who owns this data? So we give you a platform for decoupling ownership and the ability to deploy it anywhere. If you're not familiar with Dockers, I won't go into that too deeply. It's kind of a technical term, but it gives you the ability to basically, let's say I wanted to deploy Alexa on Mars. That would be impossible, right? Because it hits the cloud, and the cloud's in a data center on the planet. It would be a long call. Right? Latency would probably be pretty bad. So containers gives you the ability, only with the right model, to actually take the model and ship it to space and let it do the work from there. So huge opportunity. So the thing I want to leave you with is kind of an example. So I've planted some seeds, and right now your head might be spinning a little bit like, oh my gosh, there's so much stuff. But I want to lay the foundation for a couple things. One, how all these things come together, how voice can be part of a bigger solution, and that you shouldn't just be thinking about voice only, but voice everything. Any app today that you have, any app, mobile app, web application, any experience you have, in-store, on-site, right, like let's say you're on property, everywhere you should have the ability for someone to use their voice instead of use a phone or instead of use a keyboard, or maybe all three. So this is a common use case we have found. A lot of people don't realize, like, we're right now in this novelty phase of what can we voice enable that would be cool. What we've uncovered, and what my skills have uncovered, is that people actually don't want cool. They want easy, frictionless, something that used to take them a long time, and now they can do it in one call with their voice. So what I recommend, and this is like pro tip, maybe the last one of the day, so. A pro tip, when you're building a skill, You do not go and try and find something cool and fun and something you know people will love. You might know. You have data right now. You know if you go to your website, there are what are called click trails on your website. You know exactly where people go every single day, over and over and over again. You then also know how long it takes them to get to those things. So what you are looking for is that cross-section between things they do every day and things that are hard to get to. Example, a financial company built their very first skill. This was a while ago, so you might not remember this, but their very first voice application was to make something people looked for every single day that was at least 5 clicks away, which was the routing number. I don't know if you remember that. It used to be hard to actually get, and I needed it all the time. I was running a business at the time. Frustrating. So what did they do? They just put a tiny, not a bot, not a big thing, just a tiny little button on the front that said, click here to ask for your phone number, right? Top level intense. All you have, your data already is telling you what to build. Don't build anything else. Start with that, and your customers will love you because you're making something they do every day easy. Then your leadership, or you, if you are the leadership, will get some leeway to build more cool, maybe latest and greatest functionality in. But start with something you know will work. So I want to just demonstrate this to you. This is my obligatory, can't read from the back slide. But these are all the capabilities that are available to any dev. Meaning if you are a developer, app developer, or web developer, you get the ability to use any of these in your application. So I want you to think a little bit, I've been building skills a long time. I like Alexa skills, but it is a box. Not everyone, including my son, knows how to invoke this crazy command structure to call a skill. But he knows how to open a web page. We have a really cool project called Project Roam that allows you to voice enable a website. So all he has to do is say, open YouTube, and a web page will open on his iPad, as opposed to the app or whatever it is. So all of these enable that. It's time to think, yes, of course, build an Alexa skill. There's actually a cool company now called Zamo.ai. I think they're launching soon, where they let you build a single application called a bot using bot framework, and then they auto-deploy to Alexa, Google, and Cortana in like a minute. I've seen it done on stage. I'm like, well, I'm totally doing that demo when it goes live. But that's the future, right? The future is customers actually don't care what device they're on. They don't want to care. They want to start a conversation at home on Alexa, continue it in their car on Siri, and finish it at home, or finish it at work on Cortana. They don't want to care. The hard part about that is a tough word called context carryover. We have fixed this. Technology has fixed it. Developers, we have to be smart enough to embed it in applications that people will actually use. It's just a tough time, right? Because Alexa skills, people don't know how to use them. They're not intuitive to grandma or my kid. They're intuitive to everyone. I'm like, God, open mindfulness. Open mindfulness. I trained a bunch of people to go use it. But I shouldn't have had to, right? Somebody should have just been able to go to Alexa and say, hey Alexa, I want 1 minute of mindfulness. Or hey Alexa, I want, right? I shouldn't have had 500,000 fails on that. But this is the time we're in. So that will all change over the next 5 years. And this is where the power is. Diversify your capabilities. So I'm going to show you really quickly just a demo of how I've done this for an application. We have this really cool project. Just give it 5 minutes. We have a really cool project at Microsoft called AI Labs. Anymore, engineers, we don't get to talk to customers unless we're asked to. And so we don't get to fix customer problems. So we sometimes have to come up with our own problems to fix. So these are all examples of engineers building solutions to problems that we think maybe customers have. JFK, you might know this story. The JFK files, hopefully it won't. Darn it. I don't know why it's doing it. All right, we're going to try it again. Stay. Okay. We're going to try it one more time. Okay, I have an idea. Oh, this is going to happen. We're doing it. Okay. Okay, got it. Oh my gosh, I got it. Okay. So, I'll tell you the story from here. I don't know what's going on with that website. So, the AI Labs has a bunch of different projects. One of them was this project where we thought, wouldn't it be great if we could, help solve a world history, or maybe at least a US history problem. So in 1963, I don't know if some of you know, but there was a president that was assassinated, kind of a big deal. But then the government shrouded it in like controversy and conspiracy, created 268 code words to mask like all people involved in the JFK murder. Then they made it highly confidential and didn't give it to anybody. Well, a few years ago in the Obama administration, someone went, oops, I'm sorry. Did we do that? Oh, we did not need to do that. Here you go, American people. And they literally like grabbed a thumb drive and put 34,000 documents on a thumb drive and went, here, have at it, enjoy, right? Which means nothing to the American people. So it's got metadata. I know the authors of the docs, the times they were written, like all this really great metadata, but I can't solve the mystery that way. So a couple of engineers, including myself, got together and were like, oh my gosh, we can solve this problem. And this was created as the first phase, which was old school, circa 2016 web application, where you actually type in a keyword. And this is live, right? This is I just don't type well in front of people. So I pre-typed it. So I'm just gonna do a search. Now what's happening here though, is instead of just a search, it's gonna do an AI search. It's going to infuse 9 AI models. You can see here it's doing an entity analysis, so it's taking me from 34,000 down to 843. But now it gets fun, because instead of just metadata, which is where I'm extrapolating these relationships, I'm actually looking at a picture of a document that was scanned into the data center, right? And then I transcribed it using OCR, a single web call. I pass in an image, out comes text, and then I add a little tiny, we call them skills, a little tiny skill that goes in and highlights the word of interest. It also allows proximity. So let's say I wanted to know where JFK and Oswald were used in the same doc within 10 words of each other. I could do that too, right? Because it knows, it's now completely transcribed. But what happens if maybe it's cursive? What happens if someone handwrote it? Well, guess what? We have handwriting OCR too, a single web call. Now, this gets interesting, less in the Oswald case, but more like, I have a couple of people working on an entrepreneurial project, and they want to take all the letters that their grandparents wrote when they were like kids. I shouldn't say kids, when they were in their 20s during the World Wars. They only communicated via letter. Sometimes they were apart for years, like 6 years. So all they have is letters back and forth. The birth of a child, the christening, like all these things. And they say, oh, wouldn't it be great if we could transcribe those letters? Take pictures we have, create a 3D model of that person. You could put on a VR headset or Bose AR frames, and you could see that person standing in front of you, and you could ask them questions. Hey, how's my dad born? When did you guys get married? How did you get engaged? And it would use the visual representation with the power of voice, right? It would just synthesize, which by the way you can do, synthesize a voice that sounds kind of like my grandma reading to me the words that it found. Crazy stuff, right? But the tech is there. The hard part is us. Us engineers having the ingenuity to build something meaningful and responsible. Okay, the other thing is that if there's any photos in there, we have another AI model that'll allow you to see it. Computer vision will detect who this is. At the time of this writing, this guy was a celebrity. So you can see it says, Cleve Harvey Oswald posing for the camera. Not exactly posing, right? Going to jail. It's a little different. So what we want to do, this is just a demonstration of what the model picked up automatically, but I could change that. That's the beauty of the middle of that umbrella. So what I wanted to do, of course, this is like a standard, good old-fashioned web application. This comes out of the model, this nice graphical extrapolation of, now again, we went from 34,000 to 843 to 10. Now that conspiracy theory is looking crackable. I can do that, right? But I wanted, of course, to bring in the power of voice. So I looked for the very first piece of audio recorded back then, and it was Lyndon B. Johnson talking to this fella. His name is J. Edgar Hoover. Not a nice guy. The nice thing about rewriting history and software, I made him a little bit nicer than he is, I think. But I created a Hoover bot, because, like, how can you not create a Hoover bot? Anyway, I couldn't help myself. So I'm going to launch speech. This is browser-based speech. So I'm going to launch this right now just so you can kind of see what it's on.
Welcome to the JFK Files. I'm J. Edgar Hoover.
if you noticed. So what I did is I took about an hour of audio, uploaded it into our service, and out came this audio file. I could have done tons of stuff. I'm not an acoustic engineer. I could have got one. I didn't. And the reason I didn't is because the last thing he said, if you heard, he said Hoover, because he's from Boston, some of you might know, right? Where they say lobster and Hoover, and, you know, that, I couldn't believe it. I could not believe a synthesized model with very little training, an hour of data, picked up on a New England accent. So I dropped the mic, I was like, oh, this is awesome. But very similarly, like, you can create synthesized voice. I don't go into this any deeper because it instantly gets darker, like the longer I talk about it. So let's just talk about the dead guy, and dead people are cool to synthesize. And then the last thing is what happens, and I'm just going to demonstrate that I can also speak and type. What is GP Floor? So this is where Alexa and Google would fail. So GP Floor, I'll let him start. Maybe. Okay, I'm muting you. 1 second? No, okay. I'm sure he'll start talking. I'm on Jazz's Wi-Fi, so thank you so much for offering that. So yes, it finally came up. But either way, GP Floor, what I just looked up, is not in the English language. If I said that to Alexa, Alexa would be like, I don't know what that is. It'll interpret it as lowercase g, lowercase p, floor like the floor you walk on. It'll never get ingested into my search. It'll never come back with a query. So what I had to do is I had to train a new language model on 268 code words so that when I typed them in, it would know what I was talking about. This is, let's just say you have a weird product name, service name, company name. You're building an Xbox game and you want to create new alien species that's never been spoken before. You're going to have to define pronunciation data for your platform. Certain platforms do not allow you to do that. Microsoft is building its business on it in AI on that use case. What happens when you're stuck? You have to have the ability to build on top of it. So this is just an example. It again was able to interpret this. It went and did the same exact kind of search. I could then, if I want to dig deeper, it'll just take me right into the application, right? But this is just to show you the power of, like, wouldn't it be great if you could just talk to our apps? Wouldn't it be great if you could just surface up stuff and I could touch it on my touch screen? The tech is here, we could do this. We have to build it. And here's the sad story I promised you. In order for us to get good at this, we have to stink at it first. Alexa's a great example. Alexa was bad when it started. You know what made it survive? Us. We loved it. We didn't even care that it broke. The fact that we could talk to a kitchen device, we were like, oh my God, this is amazing. My dad raised me on like Bradbury and Asimov and all the golden age of science fiction. And he always tells me, he's like, so these stories don't end well. You should be careful what you're building. And I always tell him, don't worry, I built mindfulness skills. They're going to be fine. But the hope I have is that you see more than just a skill, right? Skills are great. It's a great way to start, but you see more than a skill. You see huge opportunity. You see the ability to transcribe. You see the ability to integrate AR and VR. We are only at the beginning. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. I would love to be your friend. And I will be also at Voice Summit this week, something or other. July. A few months from now. So hopefully I'll see you there. But if not, I do lives on LinkedIn every Monday. I do them spontaneously when I'm at events. So hopefully we'll be friends. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it.